All right, it's the game in Jacksonville, the neutral site affair, allegedly neutral. Florida, Georgia, Georgia, Florida. I don't know which team you want me to say first. Typically, I just go with the visiting team first, but whatever. Here's what I do know. It's a big game. We've been looking forward to it all year. Georgia, 3-point favorite as of this very moment. Saturday, 3:30 Eastern Time kickoff on CBS, as is usually the case. And let me just do something. Here we go. Hope you heard that. I'm going to set the pen down, and I just want to explain. For those of you who are neutral observers, maybe you're a Wyoming Cowboys fan and you just kind of watch for fun way out there in Wyoming. And by the way, credit you for choosing Wyoming to live in. That place is like a screensaver. Here's the dynamic or dynamics that are in play here. It is extremely tense in the Georgia-Florida rivalry every year, but it is even more so right now. Let me give you the Georgia perspective, and then I'll give you the Florida perspective. The Georgia perspective is this. They view themselves as superior to Florida. They think that having to talk about Florida challenging them, that's beneath them. There's only one hurdle remaining for Georgia. It is Alabama, the college football playoff, the national championship. This is kind of a linear progression, and it's not a year-to-year reset. They don't just try and beat Florida, then, okay, we'll try and beat them again next year. They want to have put them in their rearview mirror, and here's the problem. There's a dude playing at quarterback by the name of Justin Fields who used to be at Georgia. He's not, and that's not a big deal as long as your quarterbacks who were behind him succeed, but they haven't. And so right now in year 5 of the Kirby Smart era, they have a mess at quarterback. Let's just call it what it is. And they're fortunate Stetson Bennett's there, because if he wasn't there, I don't know what in the world they'd be doing right now. But that is giving Florida a window here. And there is a big recruiting advantage for Georgia currently in this rivalry and against most people, but Mullen has not kept up with Kirby in recruiting. This year, there are no official visits. I was talking to Steve Wiltfong the other day about this. On-field results will matter in the 2020 college football season more so than any other season, because you don't get to go to campus. You don't get to take in the environment. You don't get all the things you'd normally get to measure a university. So you're just watching the games. This would be such a big statement. Georgia don't want that to happen. This would also give them 2 losses by mid-November in a year where they think they may have their best defense ever under Smart, and I would agree with them. So it's not something they want to discuss. As for Florida, it's kind of the opposite. They've been building towards this, and now the moment is here. It's not 2 or 3 years down the road anymore. They got the advantage at quarterback. They're comparable enough roster-wise, and by comparable, I mean they're in the arena of competition. It's not one of those deals where, we couldn't compete with them. They're in the arena of competition. And also, Georgia's banged up. Georgia at quarterback, like I said, it's kind of a mess. This is their opportunity, and they're very excited about it, but quickly, if they were to lose, it shifts to what we talked about in preseason. If not now, when? It's so great for those of you who, like myself, I just kind of get there, sit there and watch it, and you do too. It's kind of great. Hey, let me ask you a question as we dive into the preview. Georgia fans, Florida fans, you can answer this as well. Does it feel to you like the role of the aggressor has shifted? Because every year I go to this game, by the way, in a normal year. So every year I'm on the sideline, and every year leading up to that week, during the game week, I talk about Georgia, talk about Florida, and it's always Georgia being the aggressor, and you're talking about everything that has to go right for Florida to win, and it always felt to me like Florida was on their heels a little bit in this game. It doesn't feel that way leading up to the game. Now, we'll see what the game itself feels like. I want to do something in this video that a lot of people are doing, but I want to do it in a different way. I'm not going to talk about Stetson Bennett versus Kyle Trask. I think it's pretty lazy. They're never on the field at the same time, but even if you're doing a quarterback comparison, I'm not thinking about it like that. It's kind of an apples to oranges because Kyle Trask has to face a different defense than Stetson Bennett does. Here's the question, and it's the same question that we asked, kind of in a different way, but it's the same question we asked in the Georgia-Alabama game. Who will Kyle Trask be? It's kind of like, who will Mac Jones be? Because when you face a defense like Georgia, they meet and surpass the freeze point that we talk about all the time. So the question is not, are they going to somewhat limit your production, but will your production fall off a cliff, or will it just be throttled back a bit? And that's the question to ask about Kyle Trask. Will Kyle Trask still put up, let's say, 80%, 85% of what you would normally expect from him statistically relative to when he plays an average team? Or will it fall off to like 40%? Will you turn on the TV in the middle of the third quarter and Kyle Trask has 109 passing yards, 2 interceptions? Like, that's the kind of disaster that you want to avoid. Now, in the Alabama game, the answer to who will Mac Jones be with Georgia on the field was he was a stud. And why was he a stud? Well, you know about Jalen Waddle, you know about Devontae Smith, you know about their receivers, but elite pass protection and an elite running back and elite run blocking. There's a lot of elite on Alabama. It allowed them to maintain balance, or at least the illusion of balance. And I define balance, as I've told you many times, differently than most people. It's not stats. It's as long as they believe you'll run it or pass it on any down, boom, you're balanced. Georgia had to absolutely honor the run on every down, even as Alabama was bombing away on him, and that was with both of their starting safeties. Now they'll be without one. That was with Jordan Davis healthy. Now they'll be without him, which brings me to my next point. Jordan Davis is I think their most important defensive guy up front. He is an interior clogger, but he also gets a lot of pressure. He can collapse a pocket on you, and it looks like he'll be out for Georgia. And that's with Richard LeCounte, their starting safety, on the back end, out too. A lot of other guys banged up, but those are the two main ones. What does the potential loss of Jordan Davis here mean? I do not believe Dan Mullen will ever abandon the run in this game. Their rushing numbers, Florida's rushing numbers, aren't overly impressive this year, but it's got a little bit of that LSU flavor to it from last year where in principle, now I'm not comparing them, but in principle, LSU's rushing numbers didn't light the world on fire last year, but yet you knew it was always there. It's just that they were a passing offense. Well, Florida's a passing offense, but I'll tell you what Mullen would love. He would drool at the idea of being able to do what Alabama was able to do and maintain at least the illusion of balance in this game. When you've got a back end of a defense, potentially a little off kilter with one of the premier safeties in the country out for the game, and you're missing the biggest interior presence on the opposing defense, and you can keep them off balance and keep them guessing with pass, run, run, pass, run, that kind of stuff is stuff that wins you ball games. And in these big games, in Missouri it may not matter, but in these big games it's going to really matter for Florida. Balance would be everything for Florida to be able to maintain. Georgia's not going to have it. Georgia, you know good and well, will be 2 to 2.5 to run to pass ratio. I don't think I said that right, but you get it. They're going to run the ball a whole lot more than they're going to pass it. You could be the inverse, but instead you could still maintain the illusion of balance. Georgia's got to grab something in this game early. You could call it momentum. You could just call it the outright lead. They got to grab something early. They can't play on their heels. Florida could be staggered early and still win this game. I don't know that Georgia can be staggered early and still win the game, only because that requires the come-from-behind element that I just don't think they have. The idea of playing catch-up for Florida against Georgia, it's certainly not comfortable, but I don't think it's terrifying because you don't expect Georgia to pull away from you without you giving them a lot of help. And you trust your offense to be able to play catch-up. If you, as a Georgia fan, were to turn this game on and it was 14-3 Florida early, what would you think? I mean, remember how Kirby Smart felt it necessary to manage the Kentucky game last week when the opposite was the score. Just think about the Alabama game is another good example. Once you were put in come-from-behind mode, as it turns out, it was over. I look at the way that Florida could go about this, and if they grab an early lead, to be honest with you, and I've watched every snap of every Georgia game, I'm not sure how they go about it. The way they avoid that, obviously, is their offensive line has to play out of this world, and what their offensive line has to do, even with Kyrie Campbell back and them holding Missouri, them being Florida, holding Missouri to, I think, 40 yards on like 23 carries last week, they have to prove, which they are, they're a different class than Missouri, and they have to make it matter. It doesn't matter what people call you in a mock draft or a preview magazine. You have to take over the game. And you have to continue to own the line of scrimmage, get a surge, and make it possible to lean on Zamir White and that stable of running backs, and make it possible to just rely on the screen game and a few quarterback runs and not have to throw the ball 20 yards down the field to catch up. If you can do that, it doesn't matter what your run-pass ratio is. It could be 7-1 run-to-pass. You could look like a service academy. If you keep moving the football down the field and keeping it away from Kyle Trask and Dan Mullen, that's all that really matters. So I've talked about this game a lot. We did an early thoughts on this game too. Let me show you what our model thinks, and let's talk about what Vegas thinks. Colin, let's roll the game capsule here. We told you we made this our best bet of the week, and we got it at 4.5. Well, Vegas now has Georgia as a 3-point favorite. We think the wrong team is favored. This is taking all injuries into account, all suspensions into account. We have Florida as a 1-point favorite. So our model actually elects Florida to win the game outright. I'm rolling with our model. I'm taking Florida to win the game. We got them at +4 for our early best bet. I would also obviously take them at +3. That's how we see this game going. But I'll tell you what, I mean, been wrong before, I'll be wrong again. Either way, here's what I can guarantee you in this game. Our Sunday night show will be can't miss as a result of the outcome in this one. Really looking forward to it.